What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to talk about Sam Baruti, middleweight from Akron, Ohio. I don't hear a lot about Sam Baruti, but Sam Baruti was quite a character. He was most remembered for his February 20th, 1948 fight in Chicago, Illinois, with Cincinnati Cobra, Ezzard Charles. And it would be a tragic ending for this young man. But Sam Baruti was born August 29th, 1926 in Akron, Ohio. He died February 21st, 1948 in Chicago, Illinois, at Cook County Hospital, with injuries that were sustained in a bout with the Cincinnati Cobra, Ezzard Charles. Now, Sam Baruti fought fighters such as Alan Faulkner. Alan Faulkner was from Buffalo, New York. He was a very strong fighter. And when he fought Alan Faulkner, that was a rough and tough fight. He would fight Kid Chicken, knocked him out in 6 rounds. He would fight Chuck Hunter in 1946 in Akron, Ohio, and he would receive a 10-round draw. On October 14th, he would face Murderous Row, Holman Williams. And at that time, Holman Williams was doing a job on all the fighters in front of him. But Sam Baruti would walk away with a 10-round victory in New York. And that was a fascinating victory for Sam Baruti. You see, Sam Baruti turned pro August 2nd and fought a fighter by the name of Clarence Wilkinson. He fought him in Brooklyn, New York, and he lost him in 4 rounds. So that New York fight would be redemption. And to face a fighter like Holman Williams and defeat him in New York was all that Sam Baruti would need. In 1947, the same year he fought Alan Faulkner, he would face Burt Littell, April 7th. Fought him in New York City, and he lost to him in 10 rounds. Now, Burt Littell was another Murderous Row fighter. And Sam Baruti had it out for the Murderous Row fighters because he felt he belonged in a class with them. He'd always talked about Ezzard Charles. And in the gyms in New York, in Stillman's gym, he once told Ezzard Charles, "You are not from Ohio. I am." You see, Ezzard Charles was born in Lawrence, Georgia. Later, he would move to Cincinnati, Ohio. But Sam Baruti was from Akron, Ohio. So he never respected Ezzard Charles. Nor did he disrespect him, but he never saw him as a hometown hero. And when he would go back home, he didn't get to receive the praises that Ezzard Charles did. He would face Major Jones in Kansas City, and he would lose to him in 10 rounds. On May 21st, he would face Roy Miller and North Adams and lose to him in 10 rounds. September 5th. On October 13th, he would face Little Tiger Aaron Wade, another Murderous Row fighter, and he would lose to him in 10 rounds. So he had it out for any fighter that was claimed to be a black specialist. November 12th, Preston Hall, Binghamton, he would knock him out in 6 rounds. But then he would fight a fighter by the name of Bob Satterfield. Now, Bob Satterfield was a hard-punching light heavyweight. And I think I mentioned this to you before, but Bob Satterfield was either I get you or you get me. There's nobody going to go home that night. No referee needed in the ring. Somebody's going home in a stretcher. And when he fought Bob Satterfield, that was a brutal fight. On February 20th, 1948, in Chicago Stadium, he would face Ezzard Charles. Now, Samba Rudy would train in Stillman's gym. And as my dad recalls, he remembers when Samba Rudy got the call to face Ezzard Charles. You see, Samba Rudy had a locker number 108. My dad had 107. Sandy Saller had 103. Johnny Bratton had 112. And Stillman's gym was on 8th Avenue. And you had to walk up the old steel steps. And once you got to the 3rd step, you start hearing all the speed bag and the heavy bag and bell ringing in between rounds. But you would mostly hear the voice of Lou Stillman. You see, they would announce who would be sparring next and who would be placed on a heavy bag, because Stillman's gym was like Gleason's gym today. The old Madison Square Garden that was located on 50th Street was the closest to that gym. So all the fighters that would come in town to fight in Madison Square Garden would stop by Stillman's gym. So you would have all the reporters lined up in chairs taking notes on out-of-town fighters. So Lou Stillman would announce the next fight that would be scheduled, or the next sparring session that would be scheduled. And he announced that Samba Rudy would be facing Ezzard Charles in Chicago, Illinois. And the gym erupted. They couldn't wait to see that fight. So Sugar Ray Robinson, when you walked into Stillman's gym, on the left of the door going into the gym, there would be a window. And he would have a chair and a table for signing in. And once in a while, Ray Robinson would be seen standing on top of the chair, looking through the window. He never went in the gym to see what opponents he may be facing. And he always said that Samba Rudy was some cat, as they would say. So on the night of February 20th, 1948, Ezzard Charles and Samba Rudy would face one another. Samba Rudy had a record of 41-11, 2 draws with 21 knockouts. Ezzard Charles had a record of 93-25-1 with 52 KOs. And at that time, he was 8 years as a pro. Samba Rudy was 3 years as a pro. And Ezzard Charles would face Joey Maxim, Archie Moore, and Jimmy Bivens. Samba Rudy would face Burt Littell, Holman Williams, Bob Satterfield, Little Tiger Aaron Wade, Preston Hall. These were the names on his resume. And these guys would get it on for 9 brutal rounds. And Samba Rudy was doing very well in the first 5 rounds. But in the 9th round, he would get touched up, go back to his corner. They would put ice behind his neck. And in the 10th round, Ezzard Charles came out and opened up with a vicious combination and finished off with a straight right hand. And Samba Rudy would go down and his neck would be on the bottom strand of the rope. And his right arm would be banging up and down on the canvas as though he was counting himself out. It was a frightening experience. But the fight would be over, and he would be rushed to Cook County Hospital, where the Charles and his trainer stayed all night to find out if he was okay. And the next morning, the papers read, boxer of Akron, Ohio, would die due to fight injuries. And back in New York, in Stillman's gym, everyone mourned. Because Sam Baruti was loved in the gym. He was one of those guys that cracked jokes. And once he got on you, he stayed on you. He didn't mean any harm, but he just had a personality about him. Either you loved him or you hate him. And he was one of those guys that was in the locker room. And it would get a little heated. And the reporter would go back to the locker room and say, not here, not now. And before you know it, they would be on a card in about 2 weeks, settling their differences. Sam Baruti was one of those fighters. My dad told me stories where Sam Baruti would be up in New York, in Manhattan, on 125th Street. And at that time, you had Stacey Adams' shoe store, Florsheim, and British Walkers. And he would go in there and he would buy the best shoes, the best hat. And at that time, fighters would wear 2- and 3-piece suit. They would process their hair. They would go and get their nails filed. They wanted to look sharp. But Sam Baruti, after the training and sparring, he would shower and come out with a 3-piece suit on. And as he was walking out, plenty of times, he would go over to the ring and find out why everybody's standing around the ring. And he would see a young man that he hadn't seen before that was out of town. And he would ask who this fighter was. And when they told him he was an up-and-coming guy, he'd go back into the locker room, change back into his sparring gear, and say, I'm next. That's the kind of person that Sam Baruti was. He was a fascinating fighter. Unfortunately, he met Eddie Charles, and it didn't work out for him. But salute to Sam Baruti. Class of his own. Akron, Ohio. He was a very good puncher. But on the night of February 20th, 1948, would be his last night in the ring. This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series, saying all great fighters and all great fights will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to my subscribers. Salute to Sam Baruti, the Akron, Ohio Blazer. The thing a lot of people don't know about Sam Baruti, he carried a burden with him as well in 1947. He faced a fighter by the name of Newton Smith, August 15th, 1947. And he hit him with a right hand, and Newton Smith died in the ring. Little did he know he would experience the same fate. February 20th, 1948. Salute.